I can hardly believe it. In just a couple days, Senor Spanish and I will celebrate 5 years in our relationship. Yep, 5 years ago, I committed to spend some time for about a year with Senor Spanish. He promised me that if I spent time with him, then when I and my French learners traveled with the Spanish teacher and her students, when we went to Spain, he promised that if I spent some time with him for about a year, that I would be able to get around in Spain and not feel stupid. So I said, okay, I'll give this relationship a trial run. But you know what? After 3 months, I told him, I can tell you right now that I'm in this for good. I don't want to separate from you after just a year. So we tied the knot. We got married, and Senior Spanish and I are celebrating our 5th anniversary on the 1st of June. Yeah, I'm joking. But it's true that I decided to commit to spending 1 hour a day during my summer vacation 5 years ago. I started by watching some YouTube videos using the storytelling method, and I started listening to Spanish language podcast for intermediate level learners. I was not an intermediate, but I just let it wash over me. And at the end of the summer, when I went back to school to teaching my French students, I loved Spanish. I wasn't in it anymore just to pick up some phrases and be able to get around in Spain the following summer. No, I had fallen in love with Spanish, and I was already having fun. I decided to increase my time with Spanish, even though I also was back in my classroom. But I just loved it. And I began to practice my Spanish, my very basic beginning Spanish. I began to use it with the cleaning lady who came in every day after school. I began using it with the Spanish teacher, my colleague. And I got better and better. And eventually, I was spending 3 hours a day. I know. How was I able to spend 3 hours a day with Spanish? Well, I never went to Spain. We moved before I got to go on that trip. But I was committed by then. So I was retired, and I spent 3 hours a day with Spanish, watching videos, by this time doing some reading, beginning reading, practicing with whoever I could find, listening to podcasts, and it's been 5 years. It's amazing. I never thought about what I could be doing at 5 years. So at this point, I want to share with you what I have learned about learning Spanish. Number one, it's fun. It should be fun, and it can be fun right from the start. I didn't have to wait to speak well before I started enjoying myself. No. It was fun right from the beginning. Sure, frustrating. I was impatient. I am impatient. I want to speak better than I do now. But I got to speak with Hispanics who live in America. I also met many interesting people online. during those 5 years, the pandemic happened, and I started an English conversation group with Hispanics, and now they've become my friends. We meet every Wednesday for them to have practice in English, but during the week, I have practice sessions with them in Spanish. I actually get to use my Spanish, my now intermediate level Spanish. Every Tuesday, I've told you this before, every Tuesday morning, I volunteer here in Alabama at our pro-life pregnancy resource center. Women, both Americans and Spanish speaking, the immigrants to our country, these immigrant women come in, they don't speak English, they're pregnant, they don't have money, they don't have health insurance, and they're in a different country away from their parents. So I use my intermediate level Spanish and help them, giving them information, sharing the services that we have for them, and I find out their stories because I know how to speak some Spanish. It's great. It gives me joy. So fun, joy, right from the start. What else have I gained? I wasn't expecting this. I have gained a new outlook, new points of view. I have learned new points of view. When you speak another language and you get to know people from that culture or these cultures, for me, the different Spanish speaking countries and their cultures, you learn new ways of thinking, of looking at life, of dealing with problems. Oh my goodness, I have learned so much. And every time I learn something new, it becomes really interesting. Before I knew anything about different cultures in the Spanish-speaking world, I didn't really care. But now I do. It has broadened my outlook. And here's something unexpected. Helping people with their English and learning Spanish, I've learned a lot about my own language. I've learned a lot of new English words because there'll be a word in Spanish and there's a version of it in English, but not one that we use in everyday life. So I have learned a lot about my own language, and helping English language learners, has made me appreciate and understand English grammar more. I'm also very thankful that I speak English as my first language because it's really hard. I think it's much harder than Spanish. It's just so weird. English is so weird. But it's fun too, right? Okay. What about how language learning works? What have I learned from my own experience, my own experiment in acquiring a language using this method? Storytelling, story listening, not grammar, not vocabulary memorization. Well, I have learned that it takes a long time to learn a language. These signs that say, or these programs that promise, learn English, learn Spanish in 3 months, learn Spanish in 6 months, learn English in a year. It depends on how you define learn. Sure, you can learn something, but no, friends. I started this video off with my relationship with Señor Spanish. I view partnering up to learn a language, I view it as a marriage, a lifetime commitment. Or at least a long-term commitment, if that scares you off, if lifetime scares you off. And do you have to have a long-term commitment? No. But to me, if you really want to learn the language or any new skill, you need to be in it for the long term, for the long haul, because it takes time. My third year with Spanish, I wrote down and tracked every minute involved with the language because my goal was 3 hours a day. So I know about how many hours I have invested in this relationship. And at the 5-year point, I have invested about 4,000 hours. So that's not a whole lot in one sense. Little kids, by the time they turn 4, they have invested, they have heard 14,000 hours of their own language during the first 4 years of their life. I've been involved for only 4,000 hours. So it makes sense that I'm still stumbling. I'm still at intermediate level. So it takes time, and it's not a race. It's a journey, a long journey. And for me, I look at it as a long journey for the rest of my life. Why would I stop my relationship with Spanish? No. It's joy producing. It's fun. It's involvement with other people. So it's for the long term, and it's not a race. It's not to see who can get who knows where the fastest. No. We all move at our own pace. Don't compare your progress with somebody else's. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, especially when you are speaking. No fear of mistakes. That's how we learn. What else about how to learn a language and how not to learn a language? Don't start with grammar. It doesn't work. Little kids don't start with grammar. They don't memorize vocabulary lists. Start just like a little kid. Listening, watching, paying attention. That's how you acquire a language. And you've heard me say this, those apps, those artificial apps like Duolingo, they don't work. They don't help you speak a language. They might be fun. They're competitive. You might feel good. You might feel like you're learning, but they don't work. Learn like a little kid learns. It's the only way. And little kids aren't likely to give up. Oh, I tried speaking like my parents and it didn't work. No little kid does that. And parents do not get impatient with their children. So at the 5-year point, what am I thinking about the future? I'm excited to see what I'll be able to do at the 10-year point. In fact, 10 years is a good way to look at a project. If you take on something new and it's your choice, you really want to, and you feel some energy, some passion, why not commit to 10 years? At least commit to a year and see how you feel. And when I say commit, I'm thinking, if not every day, something, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, at least 4 or 5 times a week, something. You can start small and increase it. I started with an hour a day during my summer vacation. That's all I intended. And then I got hooked. But I'm excited to see where I'll be at year 10. I am amazed at the progress I've made so far. I never pictured 5 years in, but now I'm picturing 10 years in. Where will I be with my Spanish in 10 years? It's exciting. I want to be able to do more and more. I want to help more and more people. And I don't know what doors God will open because of my Spanish skills. Well, if you're still watching this channel, and if I'm still producing English Without Fear videos, I'll let you know in 5 years. But before I let you go, I do want to be real about one frustration. And I just have had to decide to live with this frustration. I have other language partners in my life. I'm not a one language person. Sorry, I'm polyamorous with my language love life. I'm maintaining my French by reading a French novel at night. I listen to German podcasts and have a German instructor. And I am learning some Italian because Mike and I are going to Italy in September, God willing. So my available time has become divided. And I do notice that if my mind is bent in German or in Italian, my my facility with Spanish when I am talking with a Spanish language friend, it gets weakened for a little bit. But you know what? That is just what I have decided to accept. Yeah, I'm frustrated. But I want to keep up and keep growing with German. I want to maintain my French, and I want to learn some Italian. So I just accept that as a frustration. So what about you? Do you even know why you are learning English? Do you have a goal? Is there some desire you have to use your English? You need to find out what is your why. And you need to daydream about your why and what you will be able to do. And then just settle down and commit for the future. It's not a race, and it's not just short term. I want to encourage you by what I have been able to do, and I'm not super smart. I just fell in love with Spanish. So that's it for today. So tell me your thoughts about how you feel about learning English. All right, talk to you next time.
Thanks for watching. For questions or comments, here is my email